16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free.
What Nintendo don't?
Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between now and October 31st and get an extra game.
These Jehovah's Witnesses are getting creative.
In the early 90s, Nintendo was a beacon of polish in the video game space. No one else had this level of consistent quality with their games.
There's much more involved in playing the game, much more excitement. There's better use of colors, better use of music. It's not just stick figures anymore.
We have literally over 100 different characters.
Kid, what are you doing to that controller?
Throughout the 80s, Nintendo had built a reputation with some of the greatest video games of that generation. Super Mario Bros. Literally launched a renaissance for video games. Mario 2 leaned into the goofy, colorful world, making some of the most iconic characters in the series.
The kids love it.
What's good about it?
Birdo. He shoots the eggs out of his nose.
And 3 still holds up as one of the most challenging platformers to date. For better or for worse.
What even is that?
Mario had become more than just a game. Mario was a household name now. A damn animated, mostly show came out with an absolute banger of an opening theme.
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Hooked on the brothers.
Mario had transcended the video game space. After Mario 3 released, it was clear Mario games were the best of the best in video games.
Super Mario 1, 2, and 3.
Spawning hundreds and hundreds of new platforming games. What a time to be alive. But nobody quite did it like Nintendo.
This is as big or bigger than anything the toy industry has ever seen. I'll give you one comparison. Barbie, which is an institution, does about $500 million a year. Nintendo does over 3 times as much.
Now, why is it so successful? Well, the people in the industry say Nintendo simply has the best games.
And they proved that with the release of the 4th Mario game.
New Super Mario World, created especially for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
The shocking jump in visuals, that clean pixel art, everything is so colorful. Secret areas don't require you to know the damn code of the game to find. Metroid, oh my gosh, excuse me. Now you got Yoshi, you can save your progress. Super Mario World was all the old games were, and more. And now, nothing could touch Nintendo. As long as Mario was king, Nintendo was as well. Sega was the first game company to challenge Nintendo's domination of the video game space. Well, that's actually not true. Many other companies did try, but I don't think Zool was gonna be the one to top Mario. Sega was the first to actually match Nintendo's popularity with their own icon. Alex Kidd, Wild Woody, Mr. Needlemouse. Sonic the Hedgehog would become the reason Sega would thrive in the video game world, and eventually the reason they suffer. Can we just talk about how good Sonic's design is? Such a strong shape language that made for an instantly iconic character, that bright blue to contrast Mario's red, where Mario was round, wholesome, and cute, Sonic was sharp, cool, and also kinda cute. Sonic was created specifically as a contrast to Mario, and more than just design. Sonic was entirely advertised as the game for the cool kids who smoke outside the 7-Eleven and do kickflips. Mario is for weenies. Genesis does
what Nintendo don't.
Sega had successfully created a rift between video game fans. Team Mario and Team Sonic. And immediately the school playground was transformed into an intellectual battleground of why Mario is for dumb babies. The games themselves were similar enough to be comparable, but different enough for someone to have a clear preference. Mario had run as a button, leading to more precise movement, but Sonic's run had to be earned through momentum, making Sonic's controls as simple as move and jump. Mario's level design was linear and polished. Sonic's was a giant spaghetti pile of splaying pathways. Mario was slow, Sonic was fast. Almost always the argument would come down to the sheer quality of the games, and as time went on, Sega started to show more and more on that front. Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles, with each title improving on the last just like Nintendo had done with Mario, Sonic quickly became another beacon of quality in the video game space, again becoming a household name and eventually getting his very own fully animated TV show. Except they didn't stop. Boom, blam, pow. Sonic X's theme song is better than most modern songs in the top 100's charts.
Moving at speed of sound, quickest hedgehog around. Found ourselves in situation, stuck in a new location without any explanation. No time for relaxation.
But as soon as they released the third Sonic game, everyone was waiting for Sonic's Mario World moment. Nintendo took 3 games to make their 2D Mario magnum opus. Where was Sega's? I've heard a lot of people talk about how the first few Sonic games are flawless masterpieces. The old Sonic games are great. They show a level of personality and color that no other games at the time could even dream of. But they also have an inherent flaw, and that's the very equipment they were designed for. Sonic is obviously about going fast, but in 1991, TVs were little squares. In the 4:3 aspect ratio, Sonic games are just frustrating. It's a lot of, oh, ow, yep, whoops, okay, alright, yep, okay, yep, alright, okay. Sega would continue to release platforming games, but nothing truly felt like that jump in quality that Super Mario World was for Nintendo. Sonic CD, Sonic Chaos, Knuckles Chaotix, Sonic 3-in-1, Mean Bean Machine. Sega started to release games at a pace that they couldn't keep up with. But while Sega was hyper-focused on getting more and more games out, Nintendo had been working on a project that would change the focus of the entire video game industry. Not only did Mario 64 shape what 3D platformers would be, it shaped what video games in general should be. Fun. It completely changed the focus of the industry. Up until then, the way you beat games was by holding right until the D-pad gave out. The way forward was always in a single direction. But now you can move anywhere you want, and the way forward is up to you. No other games at the time gave you this much agency over gameplay. And as a kid, I chose to use that freedom by running around the outside areas for the whole time. It was so liberating. The movement is so precise. You have this wealth of moves that flow with each other. The levels have this way of telling you where to go, but not exactly how to get there. Each level technically has an intended path, but is open-ended enough that every level has some sort of interesting way to get to each star. This freedom-focused approach made Mario 64 the timeless classic it is. This was the first fully 3D game Nintendo made, even though they tried to make a VR headset a year prior.
That's insane.
Mario 64 shouldn't be this good, but it is. Mario 64 is a miracle game. And then Sega came in and was like, I think this is 3D. 3D Blast was supposed to be Sega's first big jump to 3D, and was advertised as such, but I don't think that would hold up in a court of law. 3D Blast was Sega's backup plan after a different 3D project ended up being a mess, so in panic to get something three-dimensional out the door, 3D Blast was in development for 8 months and then rushed for a Christmas release. This ended up making it a complete commercial failure. But if it's any solace, I think I love it. It's a simple but pretty fun game, more focused on the exploration aspect of Sonic than the speed. And the soundtrack is way too good given the visuals it's paired with, but the overall quality is obviously low. This marked the beginning of Sega's biggest weakness over the next 20 years. Christmas. I don't think we ever truly got to see Sonic get his Mario 64 moment, but we did get something. Sonic Adventure was no Mario 64, but it was Sonic Adventure. It was more than sufficient for fans at the time. And for some fans, the adventure games remain as the best in the series. Sonic's redesign had him with longer limbs, allowing him to strike more dynamic poses. Is he playing Twister with himself? The cover art switching to a graffiti-like style, and the music had a similar shift in mood, from the compressed, bit-crushed tunes to straight rock, furthering Sonic's status as the Mario for cool kids. And when it comes to gameplay, Sonic Adventure went basically completely linear, but with adventures lost in variety and exploration, it kinda makes up for in variety and gameplay. First, you're running from a killer whale, now you're playing pinball, now you're snowboarding. It's honestly crazy how many ideas they came up with just for this one game. Also, in Japan, they ran a series of commercials for Sonic Adventure that I think parody Indiana Jones.
Sonic Adventure. おいソニック、本当にやるのか？ああ。俺は冒険が大好きなのさ。Okay, Sonic, go.
Sonic Adventure really is a charming game, but going back to it, it's infested with glitches, sickening tracking camera shots. The animations for everything barely feel like proof of concepts.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Sonic Adventure was rushed for a holiday release, and if you're wondering how rushed, Sonic Adventure was in development for 10 months. Mario 64 was in development for almost 3 years. I guess Team Sonic might be referring to more than just their mascot. At least with Adventure 2, it felt like they'd let themselves finish the game before they released it. Sega was seriously shooting himself in the foot by prematurely sending out these games in time for the holidays. And yet, this was just the beginning. Sonic Heroes, Sonic 06, Unleashed, Boom, Shattered Crystal, Colors Generations, Lost World, Spinball, Mega Collection, Mean Bean Machine, 3D Blast.
Sonic Tennis is nothing sacred.
At least the game is good. Every single Sonic game, with almost zero exceptions, had to be released in November or December, which is what has given this poor guy such a terrible track record of quality. He was doomed from the start. Poor guy was born on Christmas Island. No Sonic game was made with the intention of being bad, I don't think. In fact, most of them, if not all, most of them actually have completely original ideas, but the team was rushed for the Christmas deadline every single game. But after Sonic Lost World, there was a suspiciously long silence. There had been a Sonic game that was in the oven for at least 5 years now. Up to this point, no other Sonic game had been in development for this long, and expectations were high. So what happened? With the release of Sonic Forces, it felt like the death of exploration in Sonic games. After the adventure games, Sonic slowly became a glorified Subway Surfers, with unfulfilling platforming and quote-unquote combat mixed in. This became known as the boost formula. Some games used this formula sparingly, but over time, the games stuck more and more to this hyperlinear, run-forward gameplay. Sonic started with a focus on choice, freedom. Part of the reason the first few 2D platformers are so fun to replay was because of the many splaying paths. Fully exploring each map can be just as fun as flying through them. But once Sonic went 3D, the only choice we had was whether or not we give the new game a chance. For the past 2 decades, Sonic games have been training my brain that Sonic gameplay is this. This is all he can do, and maybe some of this. So seeing the first gameplay footage of Sonic Frontiers had me on cloud 9. He just turned. Did you see him turn? He turned left. Obviously, we've gotten games that try exploration and open environments, but remember, Forces felt like them telling us, we're done trying anything different, just hold forward, have a lollipop, and shut up. But then, I heard Sonic Frontiers would be open world, and I nearly learned to backflip on the spot just from that information. Does this not make perfect sense? Open world is what Sonic has needed so badly. He's been stuck in linear hell. Why not drop him in the most liberating genre there is in video games? Sonic's speed makes so much sense in massive environments. There is so much potential in the words open world Sonic. But does Frontiers live up to that potential? Well, Sonic Frontiers is a step in a lot of different directions, and I don't think Sonic Team knew exactly which way was forward, but just like the first jump to 3D, after 20 years of Sonic just running in a straight line, seeing Sonic run in a circle feels revolutionary. I never realized how uncreative the past few Sonic games have been until I played Frontiers. There are so many ideas in this game, and just like Sonic Adventure, Frontiers sometimes just throws you in a minigame, and almost every time I was pleasantly surprised. Did I boot up the wrong game? Sonic Frontiers does one thing better than any other Sonic game: going fast. As much as I love the idea of going fast in Sonic, I never actually got that much out of trying to speed through the platforming games. I always preferred to appreciate all the secrets and explore different routes, but Sonic Frontiers makes some simple changes to Sonic's moveset to better fit this mindset of going fast. My one problem with Sonic's homing attack in past games was that it completely kills your momentum, but Frontiers, albeit courtesy of a glitch, lets you gain a wild amount of speed if you time the dash right before landing a homing attack. Finally, an interesting Sonic mechanic, and it's thanks to a faulty collection of ones and zeros.
Hey, he should stay on the team for the next project. He makes good decisions. Dude's resume is stacked, too.
The boost formula hasn't completely left, but it has been relegated to shrines that you find in the open zones, acting as more of a small break from the regular gameplay. But even then, these levels make me want to give Sonic Forces a second look.
Look at that, might be pushing it.
There's a freedom about the cyber levels that makes them so much more fun and challenging. Looking for skips is just as fun as looking for the red coins, and if you don't like a cyber level, it's over in less than 90 seconds. Replaying the levels for a faster time is always optional, and if you don't even want to bother with the if you don't even want to bother with the cyber levels at all, go fish. Sonic Frontiers is great, but it has far more potential than it fulfills, and it falters in some really weird ways. I was stuck on the first Titan for half an hour, trying to nail the parry timing just right, until I realized that you just hold parry indefinitely until it hits you, essentially removing the whole fun of mastering a parry mechanic. When I was exploring the desert world, I nearly had a heart attack when I heard what I could have sworn was a ghoul whispering the word "hey" in my ear. Turns out that's just the start of the sound effect for the drop dash. But for a second there, I was certain I was being haunted by He-Man. The first couple cyber levels have really challenging times to beat, leading you to actually learn skips, bend the game's rules, and even then, I barely beat them after like 10 minutes of trying. But no other cyber level had this level of challenge. There's this pinball minigame where you have to get 5 million points to beat it.
Oh, that sounds like a lot, but how many points are the bumpers?
Oh, some of the puzzles are what shape goes in what whole level of simplicity. You have to upgrade your speed stat in the slowest possible way you can think of. Is this some kind of sick joke? The combat system doesn't really give you an incentive to do anything but mash attack. Pop-in was a massive problem on launch. Jumping completely kills your momentum with a dull knife. Also, I don't know if they know this, but you can basically beat the entire game by just fishing. Obviously, Frontiers has some setbacks, and strange ones at that, but I think it's far more important to highlight the fact that Sonic games are finally evolving. It feels like Sonic Team isn't afraid of change anymore. The director for Frontiers said that he's taking out the boost completely for the next game, which is drastic. But if they nail the physics and focus on polish more, maybe take more of a Bowser's Fury approach, this next game may end up finally being Sonic's Mario 64 moment. I think one of the worst things a game can be is forgettable. And I have been constantly thinking about this game since it was released. The morning after I beat the final boss, I got goosebumps thinking about the key change in I'm Here. Sonic Frontiers has been glued to my frontal lobe for the past few months, and it's made me really optimistic about the future of Sonic games, which no past game has really ever done. Well, with one exception. " 2017 felt like the first blip of hope for the Sonic franchise in decades. After so many games nostalgia baiting with constant Green Hill zones and classic Sonic coming back for the 3D games, Sonic Mania was the first game where it actually felt appropriate. It wasn't a remake, it wasn't a collection, it was Sonic Mania. Mixing the old with the brand new, and I don't think even the originals got this much love and respect from its creators. Sonic is a more vibrant blue, the new pixel art and bright saturated colors just feels so right. I've never been so in love with a color palette.
It's so pretty, man.
All the new levels fit right in with the old and actually became my favorite part of the game, and more than anything, it's just fun. In 2017, we finally got that jump in quality that Nintendo had in 1990. Sonic Mania is Sonic's Super Mario World, and now we're just waiting for Sonic's Mario 64.